to Noob-Splaining. My name is Wolf. If this is your first time here, this is where I explain the gloriously over-the-top world of Warhammer 40,000 that nerds like me love so much. So hit that subscribe button, grab a drink, settle in, and prepare for a Noob-Splaining session. Welcome to this week's video, and this is the first I'll be doing in a new series to introduce you into the collecting of each faction. Now, I've already covered the very basics of each faction, so it's time to go just a little deeper into each faction. We're kicking this series off with the Necrons for two reasons. One, it was a request, and if you have a request for a video, check out the description, as I don't hide requests behind a paywall, and secondly, I fucking hate the Necrons, so let's get them out of the goddamn way. So I will be talking a bit more about the lore, how the faction plays, along with its unique rules and stratagems, the units that you get in the combat patrol box, which are basically starter sets for each faction, and what units you may want to add and why. So, the lore. The Necrons are the oldest race in the 40k setting, and pretty much every one of them is a skeletal robot made of living metal, each with no individuality or the ability to think for themselves. It is only a handful of the leaders at the very top that have any personality, and a good example of this is the Necron book, The Infinite and the Divine, which has great reviews and is hilarious, or so I am told. I haven't got round to reading it yet. Now, they were not always this way, and they were just normal organic creatures that suffered from short lifespans due to being too close to their sun, so they were bombarded with radiation. They were then tricked by the Catan into sacrificing their organic bodies and their souls for the living metal endoskeleton bodies they have today. They were then used as the primary units in a war against the Old Ones, until the Necron leader, the Silent King, turned on the Catan during the last moments of the war and shattered the Catan into the shards, freeing his people. He then ordered all the Necrons to go to sleep in their tombs, leaving the Eldari to take over the galaxy for a while. Now, that was 60 million years ago, and now thanks to some bumbling prick from the Mechanicum accidentally waking up a tomb world, they are now waking up all over the galaxy and have decided they want their galaxy back. They are by far the most technologically advanced species, and they even have a holographic recreation of the entire galaxy, and if you delete a planet from that hologram, it deletes it from reality. So they can literally end the entire universe with a push of a few buttons, but you can't reclaim a galaxy if it doesn't fucking exist anymore. Now, due to their bodies being made of the living metal, they are actually impossible to destroy. As they are damaged, the living metal will heal itself through something called reanimation protocols, or if too much damage has been caused, they will be teleported back to their tomb, where their reanimation protocols kick in and heal them back to full strength over time, regardless of how much damage was caused. Playstyle. Now, bear in mind, since the release of 10th, the traditional style for a lot of factions has changed, and you can build a Necron army that is fast moving or just all heavy hitting vehicles and units, but we will base this on the traditional feel of them. The Necron's unique rule is the reanimation protocols, which basically allows every Necron unit to recover a minimum of 1 to 3 wounds, some cases more, at the start of every one of your turns. So your unit of 10 Necrons, each with 1 wound, takes a total of 4 wounds. You would remove 4 of them from the table. Then in your command phase you roll a d3 and put that many back into play, but you can't go over the original amount. Now, 1 to 3 doesn't sound much, but not only the only faction that can do it, it is quite easy to bolster this amount with some extra units and stratagems, and you can have units healing up to 12 wounds per turn, in some cases even per phase. You can also throw even more units down that will allow them to heal in the enemy's turn as well. Overall, the Necrons do move a little slower than most armies, only 5 inches per turn instead of the normal 6 that you generally see, but they do have some fast attack capabilities like the Ghost Arc. As most images of Necrons generally show the Necron warrior with their signature Gauss rifle, people do view them as a ranged army, and while primarily they are, they do have several more than capable melee units that are often overlooked. The core infantry of the Necron warriors have the standard 24-inch range, but most of the other weapons are only 18 inches, so you're going to have to get your troops up close and personal. The heavy weapons, however, do have ranges equivalent to that of other armies, so you can lay down some firepower while moving them up and then healing some, if not all, of the damage you have received. Each of their non-named characters when leading a squad also buffs the squad one way or another. One can give it rerolls on the heals, one gives bonuses to hit, one gives enemies a negative to hit, and so on, which makes it very tempting to have a character in pretty much every squad, depending on what you're up against and what that squad is meant to do. Their stratagems include activating their heal again, resing a dead character on half health, and yes, there are ways you can then have it activate its heal. You can add +1 strength to units' melee attacks for a turn, reroll wound rolls on a single unit for a turn, or you can have your unit shoot in the enemy's turn. And finally, you can have a unit fire extra shots by giving it the assault keyword until the end of turn. Start collecting. Now, I love the combat patrol boxes. They are essentially the faction's starter box, and each box has roughly 500 points of units in, and they are designed to be balanced against any of the other combat patrols, so you can grab any two and bingo, you and a friend can start playing 40k. Now, at the time of writing, Games Workshop don't have any of the Necron combat patrol boxes on their store, so I'm guessing it's being tweaked. So this next bit may be wrong in the near future, but this is what you would get if you bought one a couple of months ago. So, in the box you used to get 1 Necron Overlord, 10 Necron Warriors, 3 Tomb Blades, and 1 Night Scythe. So a good chunk of money's worth of models there. So let's break them down. The Necron Lord is obviously the leader of your army, and he should always be attached to a squad, because then he gets to make the entire squad use their heals in both yours and the enemy's turn. On top of that, he has a very powerful single-use tachyon arrow that is good for doing serious damage to enemy characters or vehicles. Plus, he can target any squad and use a stratagem on it for 0 cost, even if you have already used that stratagem on another unit. So yes, you can also activate the heals again on 2 units for 1 command point on top of their heals they have already used. The 10 Necron Warriors are the rank and file troops, and they're not quite as tough as Space Marines. They are each armed with the iconic Necron Gauss rifle, which is slightly less powerful than a bolter, but they can upgrade this to the Gauss Flayer. That gives them more attacks and a higher strength, but halves their range. They also get to heal 1 to 6 damage per turn instead of the 1 to 3, or better still, 4 to 6 if near a strategic objective. So putting the Overlord in with them is a no-brainer, as the Overlord can't be targeted while models are still standing, so you can use your heals in the enemy's turn in your turn and use the Overlord's ability to activate the heal stratagems for free. That's potentially 18 damage healed throughout yours and your enemy's turn, and this can be bolstered even more with the addition of some extra units nearby. That's fucking mental. Anyway, onto the Tomb Blades. These are fast attack portion of the army, zipping around the battlefield as they can fly with a massive 12-inch move. They are, however, still a ranged unit. Unlike most fast attack units, which are melee, their job is to get around the back and shoot stuff. They get a -1 to hit on all incoming fire, adding to their survivability. You then get to choose to have them ignore all cover and get a 5+ invulnerable save, or improve their normal saving throw from 4+ to 3+, which is equivalent to a Marine in power armor. If your opponent has weapons with lots of armor penetration, you want to take the 5+ invulnerable. If they don't, then take the normal 3+. Finally, we have the Night Scythe, which is an aircraft and has some rather nasty guns on it. You can tell those guns are meant for heavy infantry or characters, but will work on any infantry but struggle against vehicles. This is also a transport, so it can ferry units about the battlefield. However, with it being an aircraft, it has to move a minimum of 20 inches forward in a straight line and then can turn up to 90 degrees. If it goes off the table, you set it up again in your deployment zone at the start of your next turn. Now, getting used to moving it will take some practice, as if you end up going off the table, you're going to miss that firepower for the rest of the turn. Additional units. Now, the main thing I see missing in this combat patrol is melee. The Overlord can fight in melee perfectly well, but the other units not so much. So I will probably grab some more warriors to make them up to a squad of 20, and then get a melee squad like the Flayers, as they do more damage to units below half strength. The next thing you want to look at is some anti-vehicle units like the Canoptek Doomstalker. Next, you want a few Canoptek Reanimators near your units, as whenever any unit within 12 inches of this model activates its heal, it gets to heal for an extra D3. So stick 1 or 2 near that squad with your Overlord in, and in each turn, both yours and the enemy's, they are healing 3 to 12 wounds per turn, plus an extra 3 to 12 if you use the stratagem heal on them. Better still, if they're near an objective, it's 6 to 12 per turn. Now, add a Ghost Arc nearby, and once per phase, if a Necron Warrior unit within 3 inches of the Ghost Arc takes damage, its heal activates, but you can only use this ability on each warrior unit once per phase. So yes, it can be used in the enemy's shooting phase, and the enemy's hand-to-hand phase, and any other phase the unit takes damage. So every time it's taking damage, you can heal some back, so you really want to get your enemy to do a little bit of damage to you in every phase possible, just so you can keep activating that heal. Eventually they will figure out that they need to pour massive amounts of damage on a single unit until it is totally destroyed, as then you can't use the heal on destroyed units, so each of your squads or vehicles is going to become a fucking bullet magnet until it's dead, and then move on to the next one. So use that to your advantage to move your troops up into positions, while one squad is literally tanking everything. But the sheer amount of models you can put back on the table, or just heal up after taking a bit of a big hit, is extremely demoralising to an opponent. As always, you can paint them any colour you want, but the most common are silvers and bronze. In fairness, I probably would have a Necron army if I didn't have PTSD of painting 10,000 points of undead back in the days of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So no, I don't hate Necrons. I hate the thought of having to paint another fucking skeleton, even if it is a robot space one. And there we have it. That brings us to the end of this video. If you laughed or learnt anything, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and if you are already subscribed, then don't forget to share this video with somebody who could do with some noob-splaining in their life. Also, leave a comment on your favourite part. I do try and interact with every comment. But if you made it this far, thank you, and I'll see you next time.